Douglas County businesses are aiming for 5 stars and a workaround COVID restrictions that comes with the catch. At what point do vaccinations play out in our daily COVID numbers? We have a month to mark down on your calendars. No patio, no problem. An Arvada man is showing up with his own furniture to keep his favorite restaurants open. Other states have learned a lot from us about reintroducing a big cat, the Canada Lynx. The question is, can we teach ourselves a thing or two after voters make their decision about gray wolves? That's next. Businesses that rely on indoor service could soon get permission to have more customers. The state has finalized the requirements for a 5-star variance program. For restaurants that qualify, it would mean that they have the ability to reopen dining rooms. Gyms and retail shops could be allowed to increase their capacity as well. But Marshall Zellinger found a catch that requires you to give up some privacy.
This is the extensive checklist businesses must follow if they want to be considered for the new 5-star variance program. Essentially, 5-star recognition means businesses, restaurants, gyms, indoor event centers can operate under restrictions one color level looser. For example, in counties that are level red, restaurants have to close their dining rooms. But under the 5-star status, the restaurant would be allowed to operate at level orange restrictions, 25% capacity. If you want to be one of the 25%, you have to follow some rules as well. Customers have to be screened for symptoms, leave their name and contact info for contact tracing purposes, and the restaurant has to record where you sat.
Douglas County will be applying on Friday for the 5-star variance program.
City and county leaders in Douglas County held a conference call to make sure they could be first to submit an application to the state tomorrow to be granted the 5-star variance. That's step 1. Step 2 would be inspecting businesses to make sure they can follow the county's 5-star guidelines to qualify.
Our main priority is going to be driven towards restaurants, and then after that event venues, and then after that other businesses, because those restaurants and event venues are the ones who've had the most dramatic, negative effects.
Another part of the county's application to the state has to explain how it will conduct live inspections and explain the protocol for enforcement. We reached out to Weld County commissioners to see if they would put on paper enforcement procedures for restrictions they have previously said need to be enforced by the state. A spokeswoman for the commissioners said that Weld County has no plans to apply for a 5-star variance. In a bit of irony, Douglas County needs its application signed off by the Tri-County Health Department. Earlier this year, commissioners there briefly suggested creating the county's own Board of Health to make decisions instead of being bound by Tri-County's Board of Health.
We have staff working with Tri-County Health because we need Tri-County Health to sign off on our project. And they have been with us all along on this process.
For all of the counties that are currently in red status, they cannot qualify for the 5-star variance until they can show a 2-week decline in cases and hospitalizations and a positivity rate that is declining over 2 weeks or is currently less than 10%. Boulder County, for instance, put out an email today saying it does not yet meet those requirements because hospitalizations are not down for 2 weeks. They still have at least 2 more days before Boulder County could qualify. Anusha.
And talking about catches, there's another one, Marshall, that could stop some businesses from participating in this?
Yeah, if you really read through the rules, if you are a business that has been cited in the past for a public health order violation, even if your county qualifies for 5-star, you never could qualify yourself for having violated earlier in the year.
All right, it's all in the details. Thanks, Marshall. Good to see you. Well, today, Denver Mayor Michael Hancock took part in his first coronavirus response update for the city and county of Denver since his now infamous Thanksgiving trip. The mayor self-quarantined after returning home from visiting his daughter in Mississippi. His spokesman tells us that he has had multiple negative COVID-19 tests since coming back. So if you remember, he took this trip after weeks of encouraging fellow Coloradans to stay home for the holiday to help stop the spread of COVID-19. So today, our Marshall Zellinger asked, "What you doing for Christmas?"
I saw an email from your assistant today that says you will be on holiday starting tomorrow through January 4th. The last time I saw an email like that, you traveled out of state. So I'm curious what your plans are for the next 2 weeks. Will you be leaving Colorado? Will you be having any large holiday gatherings?
No and no.
The mayor's trip has been viewed by a lot of people as hypocritical, and we on Next have asked him whether he's planning to take a step back as the face of Denver's COVID response because of it. He has previously told us that he will not. Today, we asked the leader of Denver's Department of Public Health and Environment, Bob McDonnell, whether he should be taking on a more prominent role. Here is his answer presented to you tonight without comment.
Do I feel I'm the face of this? Now, I can't reiterate this enough that the mayor has been a leader in every way from the start of the pandemic.
All right, moving on. Denver is seeing an encouraging trend in its COVID-19 numbers, and that trend, for the most part, has also been seen statewide. 1,403 people are currently hospitalized with COVID-19 in Colorado. That is down 25 from the day before. 178 patients have been discharged or transferred in the last 24 hours. Our hospitalizations have been steadily declining since the end of November. Our current positivity rate is just over 8%. Our 7-day average is now 8.6%. That number has also been trending down for the last few weeks. Our daily death count is the one main metric that is still going up. We are averaging more than 60 deaths a day. In December 3rd, we lost 72 Coloradans to the virus. Our daily new case counts are also going down over the last few weeks. Yesterday, Colorado added 3,145 new cases. We are averaging a little over 3,000 a day over the last 7 days. At the beginning of December, we were averaging over 4,100 a day. A U.S. government advisory panel has endorsed a second COVID-19 vaccine. The FDA is expected to act quickly to authorize the Moderna vaccine for emergency use. So at what point are we going to actually see vaccinations play out in our daily numbers that a lot of us are so glued to watching? I discussed that today with our point man on COVID-19 coverage, Chris Vanderveen.
I kind of got chills when I saw the first vaccines being packaged, then rolling out, and then showing up in Colorado. And the timeline of it all is pretty extraordinary of how this rolled out.
Huge deal. I mean, you think about where we were back in March. When we were just learning about this. And back in March, it really would have been absolutely unheard of for us to have viable vaccine by the end of the year. I don't think anyone realistically thought that was possible back in March, but now here we are in December and tens of thousands are rolling out here in the state of Colorado. It's a big deal. And obviously right now it's just going to frontline healthcare workers, but that's a big deal too, because we've got to feel like they're safe in order to take care of the people who do have COVID.
Because we pay attention and everyone's paying attention to the numbers so much, how can we expect the vaccine rollout to start reflecting in our daily numbers and the transparency in that, just to understand what's actually happening?
Yeah, great question. The state was asked that yesterday. A lot of folks with CDPHE were asked that on a call yesterday. Really, the best thought is that we'll start to see a dent in the numbers maybe by late January or early February, primarily because by that time, not just frontline healthcare workers are going to be vaccinated, but you're going to have a lot of folks in long-term healthcare facilities who are going to be vaccinated too. And so really those folks that are potentially most prone to getting really, really sick are going to be vaccinated. And so you expect to see some sort of mark from that.
We also talked about school plans and some food for thoughts for both districts and parents. That's in our full conversation. You know the drill here. You can watch that on our Next YouTube page. So there aren't a ton of national bill signings that really get our attention, but there was one. It happened today in the White House with a Colorado connection. It's a Colorado connection that we highlighted here on Next over the summer. Back in August, we met Jane Dedecker. Jane is a sculptor in Loveland who created a piece that honors the women's suffrage movement. It features women that a lot of people know by name, like Susan B. Anthony, and some who aren't as well known. She donated the monument to the National Park Service so that it could be placed in Washington, D.C. The next step was to get Congress to pass a bill accepting the monument for donation, which they did earlier this month. Today, President Donald Trump signed the bill into law, which means Jane's monument will be in the nation's capital for all to see very soon. The buck apparently stops here. At a turning point for the Colorado State GOP, they'll now have to look for a new leader. CPW will soon work to reintroduce gray wolves to Colorado. We look back on another big statewide reintroduction program that turned into a success. Neighbors in one West Greeley neighborhood aren't sick of Christmas music, they're sick of Next. After their poor showing here in Colorado in last month's election, the state Republican Party is searching for a path back to competitiveness and also looking at a change in leadership. Republican Congressman Ken Buck announced today that he will not be seeking a second term as state party chairman of the Colorado GOP. He has served in that capacity the last 2 years. He says that he feels like he can best continue the fight for Colorado and conservative values in other capacities.
Big changes on the way to Colorado. I'm tracking a storm system pushing into the state tonight. It's bringing some light snowfall across the western side of Colorado. It'll make its way into our backyard by tomorrow. Here on HD Doppler 9, you can see that snow pushing in across the Grand Mesa up to the northern mountains later this evening. It becomes widespread overnight, and then finally by about midday, it'll arrive here in the Denver area. If you blink, you might miss it because it's a fast storm. By 11 o'clock, it's out of here and clear skies take over. As far as amounts go, less than an inch here in the city with about 2 to 4 for the mountains. The northern mountains could see upwards of 4 to 8 inches. That storm system rolls out. It leaves us with some chilly temperatures. We'll only be in the 30s for highs tomorrow. Plus you factor in the winds. There'll definitely be a bite out there. The sunshine though is back for the weekend and looking ahead toward next week. First day of winter, feeling a little bit more like spring.
Today, this show is a safe place for patio furniture in the sun, the rain, even the snow. A man in Arvada is doing what he can to keep in-person dining alive in Old Town. He told our Brian Wendland if a restaurant doesn't have its own patio, he brings the patio to them.
Restaurants in Old Town Arvada are trying to accommodate everyone, but some just don't have the room for outdoor dining or the budget for heaters. So Chad Hart is doing it himself.
We go set up our dining area. We have some parking lot dinners, with our heaters going to support local businesses.
He brings his own heater, his own tables and chairs, and even his own candles.
We got to create a little ambiance. So
it's Chad's way of helping the business owners he's known for years, and his way of breaking out of the cardboard and styrofoam delivery food blues.
And I turn on a little music and, it's my evening or my time to eat. So I make it as fun as possible.
Chad plans on turning this into a weekly occurrence, picking a new restaurant for each meal. He says he'll be making sure the place is fine with him bringing his own furniture. But for the most part, the places he's been to have loved this unique setup. Sorry, not sorry to the neighbors of Aaron and West Greeley. It is perpetually 6 p.m. for them because her husband Tony synced up their Christmas lights to the next intro song. We appreciate this dedication and thank you, Aaron, for sharing this video. This is my favorite part of the show. Someone who might like to visit Aaron's house is Haku. His owner, Danielle, says that he has the same reaction every time that theme music comes on. He walks over and then, politely sits in front of the TV. He's the best boy, and we appreciate his viewership.
The Lynx Reintroduction Program is something that Colorado Parks and Wildlife is really, really proud of. Other states look to this program as a big success.
Other states have learned a lot from Colorado's reintroduction of the Canada lynx more than 2 decades ago. We ask if it can teach our state about bringing back another big predator. Next. It's been more than 20 years since the state of Colorado welcomed back a big cat that had been virtually wiped out in the 20th century. Between 1999 and 2006, Colorado Parks and Wildlife released more than 200 lynx in the San Juan Mountains, all fitted with tracking collars. In the 2 decades since, CPW has watched their population stabilize and expand. Our Corky Scholl talked to wildlife officers today about whether this successful reintroduction plan can now serve as a blueprint for another reintroduction plan that Colorado voters approved last month.
In that time frame, we moved a little bit over 200 animals from Canada and Alaska, and really kicked off the first time that any lynx reintroduction program had ever been done anywhere in the world. We think there's somewhere between 150 and 250 lynx down in southwestern Colorado, but we'll never know precisely the numbers of animals that are there. We've had to be creative. We've had to learn from mistakes and figure out what works and what doesn't work. And it takes a lot of persistence. They're difficult animals to monitor because of their secrecy and because of their low densities and the habitats they use. Wolves is a different story. And lynx and wolves are fundamentally very different species. They function ecologically very differently, and they have a very different social stigma that goes along with them too. So there are some things that we can learn from the lynx projects, but there's a lot of things that will be very different from a wolf reintroduction than we experienced with a lynx reintroduction, although there's some general similarities in terms of transporting animals and some of the logistics. But from a social and a political side, it's a very different animal.
Eric with CPW says the lynx population have been stable in southwestern Colorado. They have started to expand into new areas in central Colorado along the I-70 corridor near Vail Pass and into northern Summit County. A gingerbread house that looks like it got hit by a gingerbread tornado. We share some more of your holiday fails and your feedback next. As you're looking for holiday activities to do with the kids over the next 2 weeks, just remember it really is the thought that counts. Sabrina in Loveland had the right idea for a crafty Christmas activity with her granddaughters. They spent the weekend making a gingerbread house. Seemed to be working great. The kids were all smiles. They were enjoying the process. That's beautiful right there. Grandma Sabrina says then she read about a gingerbread glue that is supposed to quickly dry. She says, in wise words, don't believe everything you read on the internet because the thing fell apart almost immediately. It was just like carnage, walls of the house everywhere, gingerbread glue everywhere, including the floor. If you have a spectacular holiday fail you would love to share with us, don't be shy. Email your story, preferably with a picture or video. You know how to get a hold of us. It's next@9news.com, or you can get our attention on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext. All right, got some feedback tonight. Rich asking, did Chris Vanderveen move into Kyle's basement? We had so many people asking us that tonight. Zoom did it again, right? Plus, we just wanted to see the firewood for a little bit today, you know? Also, got another tweet saying, I've watched you grow from the early days. You were a mess in the beginning, and now I enjoy you. I 100% agree. I was very nervous when I first joined 9 News, settled in a little bit more. Always believe that you get more than one chance. Thanks so much for hanging out, everyone. We will see you next time.